Hi, I'm Katie, host of Focus and Flourish podcast. I used to grind nonstop until I figured out how to automate my systems that ended up helping me achieve a 4-day work week. Now I earn more and work less. Want to do the same? Grab my free 6-figure strategy guide, which is the exact blueprint I used to grow my own business to where I am today. Link in the show notes. Are you new here? Tap subscribe to support the show and never miss an episode. All right, you guys, welcome back to Focus and Flourish. I don't know if you did listen to the previous episode, but this is sort of a part 1 and part 2. Today, episode 22, we are going to be talking about the real bones of building your business. You know, fully pulling back the curtain, really diving in there. So I first want to start by saying something that, might surprise you, but 6 figures isn't magic. It's not, some magical thing that's just going to happen, or, you doing a ton of free shoots to build your portfolio. It's math. It's structure. It is really stepping into a leadership role in your business, because if you're not there yet, your energy is probably in way too many buckets, preventing you from reaching that goal. So most photographers never hit this point because they don't understand the real bones of how running a business works. And they're overly focused on the talent or the creativity side of things. So they see highlight reels, they see luxury branding, they see sold out calendars. And that's because marketing right now is crazy, cray. And just in general, social media and tech are really noisy and crowded. So the back end, that's where a lot of photographers and creatives don't truly understand how to build the bones of a business from the ground up. So today I'm pulling the curtain back. We are talking about the 6-figure strategy workshop inside of my system strategy and mindset bundle. Everything is also in the show notes if you want to dive deeper. And I've also included a couple epic free resources for all of you to get started. So show notes are a must on this one. So this training in general is not some inspirational, harness in. It's not like that at all. It is not fluffy at all. It is the real framework of how a photography business becomes predictable, profitable, and sustainable. So, if you've sat there wondering, why are other photographers consistently booking at higher rates, and why are others stuck? This episode is absolutely for you. So stay tuned. So when I really started to understand business, I did not do it alone. First of all, I understood my limits. And I educated myself, and I invested in getting the support that I needed to understand, grow, and get educated around the business side of things very, very, very early on. Now, I understand that there are 1 billion offers out there now, but it's still, educating yourself is still accessible and affordable in today's world and industry. It's just sometimes a little stressful to begin the process. So when I began pushing beyond, when I was younger, I would just be shooting all the time. We made great money. My overhead was low, really low, but I knew that wasn't sustainable. 5 engagement sessions in a week, weekend shoot, I knew that wasn't sustainable. And I wanted to scale massively to be able to prepare to become a mom, have a family, have a better work-life balance, right? So, when I scaled, really scaled my business to where it is today in the beginning years of all of this work, I wasn't doing anything glamorous. That isn't where the work was. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to be famous. I wasn't and I certainly wasn't the cheapest. So I focused on structure and business strategy. And those were the areas. Business strategy first, and then the structure around that. Those are the areas that I needed to understand, build, and stick to for the long haul. And that is what works. So when this is all going on, you're not just shooting all the time. When you're shooting all the time, great. Good for you. You have no time left over to be growing in your business, right? So I knew my revenue targets, my average booking value, my conversion rate, my offer ladder, my marketing calendar, essentially what our response time looked like on all platforms as leads started to double and triple. So most photographers operate emotionally, and I get that because I do too, and sometimes I need to pull myself back. So six-figure businesses operate strategically. Our cup is only filled with so much energy. So really stepping into the mindset piece is one part of this. And having a roadmap to follow is another part. Again, like I invested in consultants and support and education to arrive. And it was invaluable when I think back to certain points in my 20s of like, wow, this is $1,400, or wow, this is like $500. It's just so much money. And then now here I am, like almost 2 decades into my business with young children, best money I ever spent. So again, around strategy, I'm not saying to take emotion out of this. I'm an extremely emotional person, but I'm saying take emotion out of your business for a minute to get the systems, structure, and plan in place. So I realized something when I began coaching photographers, which started a long time ago and mostly one-on-one and small groups, all in person. So the people I was working with and most photographers, they don't need more editing tricks or presets. They didn't need, like any kind of, pardon me on that. So most photographers operate emotionally, and that is there is no issue with being an emotional person. I'm extremely emotional. But six-figure businesses and long-term business growth operates on strategy. So I'm not saying to not be emotional at all. I'm saying to step out of that mindset to go into a more strategic place to get the business plan and the systems and structure in place so that you can show up as a more emotional person and involved in your business in the right ways. So I realized something when I began coaching and mentoring photographers. Essentially, it started off one-on-one, small groups. I had a studio in the Bay Area, and all of it was in person. And over and over and over again, I was like, photographers don't need more editing tricks or presets or like inspiration. They need to understand finances, how money flows in and out of their business, cash flow, how to actually create workflows and start automating some of their systems. And this is way like a long time ago, right? Or at least creating a blueprint to follow. And so I built the six-figure strategy workshop to teach the model and the leadership behind sustainable growth. And it is so much simpler than people often think. However, it's really overwhelming sometimes to dive in. And so this workshop is really incredibly value packed. And so let's break it down here so you can walk away today feeling inspired. You can walk away going, okay, I learned something and I'm going to implement it, this week. Let's break this down. What does like a high grossing business actually mean, right? So 6 figures means 100,000 or more of gross revenue. That does not mean your take home, right? This also doesn't mean 80-hour work weeks, editing all night. It doesn't mean burning out. It doesn't mean, chaos in your life. But that is what I mean when I am saying 6 figures. So the other thing people need to understand is most photography businesses in the United States have a 50-50 profit margin. That means if you're grossing $100K, you're bringing home for your actual salary $50,000. Okay. So really learning the numbers here is also super critical because some people are okay with that gross number and it's not really what you are making. So you've got to understand your revenue targets, the cost structure of your business, what you can let go of, like what your subscriptions and apps and things like that you can let go of, and really getting your tech stack tightened so that you understand, okay, I've got these 5 key pieces of technology I use in my business rather than like 80 different things. Okay. So we also want to understand profit margins and capacity. What do you actually have the capacity for? So in this workshop, I walk students through reverse engineering their income. For example, if you want to make $120,000 a year, and your average booking, say, is $6,000, and you're a wedding photographer, so your average wedding is like $6K, you need to book 20 weddings. Done. Math. That is less than 2 per month. So here is where most photographers that I work with and know and are going, they go wrong. So they don't define their average booking value intentionally. That's number one. They don't build offers that support it. They don't strategically present their pricing to potential clients in a way that guides them and makes them feel supported and guides them through, what problems you're going to solve. So that is really critical too, is like the psychology of your pricing. And then they don't map out their marketing to hit those numbers. They don't actually have a marketing plan or a content engine, is what we call it in my business. So a lot of people just kind of hope what they're doing is going to work. And hope isn't a strategy, unfortunately, although I'm a very hopeful person. So the real bones of business. So inside this workshop and today, we focus on 5 core pillars. Revenue mapping. So you can't scale what you can't measure. We want to sort of understand, you want to understand your numbers clearly. And if you don't have any numbers, there's still so many other parts of this that can guide you and support you in getting there. So let's talk about the foundations here. Freeing your time is your very first profit. So we learn how to audit your week and find your top drains. Where is your energy getting drained? Automating, delegating, and simplifying those things are number one. Protecting your creative and sales time is absolutely critical. So foundation 2 is all around digital organization, mental freedom, closing tabs in your brain. So folder and catalog systems that don't break, so that you are not actually focused on post-production as much as you think you need to. One home for all of your assets, guides, and templates, making sure that that's live and backed up. And then canned responses and workflows for every client stage. And then foundation 3 is all about removing the repetitive work. We all get it. We've all done something 1 million times, and those are called bottlenecks. So we want to remove all of the repetitive work. Training AI editing profiles in your exact style is one way you can go about that. Batch calling and edits in minutes, and then delegating admin or a VA and delivery tasks on that. The other piece is, beyond AI editing, is also really honing in on your brand and your marketing, so you can train a custom GPT to be your brand and marketing assistant and cut back hours of time per week. So if it's not done right, unfortunately, it will always sound very generic and not get you where you want to be. So that's for another episode. We teach all about building a personalized brand and marketing assistant in my membership. So if you're ever interested in chatting about that, get back to me. Then what we're trying to do at this point is delegating the rest. So you're staying in that top 5% of your business. So you want all of your workflows dialed, your inbox and canned responses, so you only have to change a sentence or two and keep on moving people through their client journey for whatever niche you're in. Those are called workflows. And you want all of your prep guides and client support guides and resources to be evergreen, so that they can be implemented in your emails as your clients are moving through that journey, and you're not reinventing the wheel 1,000 times for every client. And then you want your blog formatting and where that pushes to Pinterest, LinkedIn, all social platforms to have a system. So maybe you start with once a month. And I recommend the 3 E's are like our content principles. You're either educating, exciting, or engaging your audience, whether it's with social media, your website copy, or blogging, or making videos, whatever it is. 3 E's. So then we dive into systems and workflows, which is, mapping out your client journey, documenting the steps and the timing for those, which is huge. And so essentially people go, well, why do workflows matter? First of all, they will save you thousands and thousands of hours. They save time, but not only that, they build trust. There's no missteps. You're not dropping the ball with any clients. You're giving the same high-level client experience every single time. It's very personalized when it's done correctly. And they have a wonderful experience. You're never reminding people for payments. And when doing the math back in the day, you're going to be saving 20, 22 hours a week minimum by getting a CRM and your workflows dialed and all of those evergreen assets. So the next kind of phase of this is, okay, we've got our workflows mapped out, but what about automation? So I am all about automation that feels human. You're going to have triggers for every stage. And a trigger means that might just be an email that says, to do, Katie, XYZ, right? You don't want to automate everything. You're still a human. So smart triggers for every stage of your client journey, personalizing what you need to, and reminders for everything so that you know that nothing's going to fall through the cracks. I go deeply into your brand strategy and design strategy. So clarity, in my opinion, creates clients. What you do, who you're talking to, it all matters. So we want your brand strategy and all of your deliverables, your client guides, your website, your reel covers, all of that to come into play together so that it positions you for value and that it creates consistency. Even if it's simple, it has to be consistent. And then that leads into what is one of my favorite topics and so incredibly important, is a website that converts. Like I said in the last episode, it's your digital home, it's your digital sales person, all of that. So six-figure strategy is all about benefit-led headlines, social proof and testimonials. You don't have it? Here, go get it. How you should structure your homepage, how you should structure your website. In the show notes, I've included our 12-step high converting website framework for free that you can download and read and start working through today. Moving on, then we've got to talk about copy. There's a million copywriters, there's AI, but AI is only as good as what you feed it. And so if you start using AI without having trained it properly, you are going to be saturated in with the rest of this industry. So words need to do the selling for you, and that's twofold. Right? So your website copy needs to be written for humans and your ideal clients and for robots. You essentially want your website to rank on Google and ChatGPT and all search engines. So it's tricky, right? Actually learning how to write your own web copy is something that can be overwhelming. That's something I go over in the workshop that is so valuable for most people. I work through our Canva system, the Canva CEO Essentials, cohesive branding, building your brand guide, templates that turn hours into minutes for clients. We want every asset to be a silent sales rep for your brand so that everything is cohesive and really, really in alignment and consistent. And so from there, I do walk people through how to kind of organize Canva. We want to make sure that you have socials, all of your assets organized, or then again, it starts to get overwhelming. Another big piece to what I try to sort of bring to the table is how marketing, pricing, and scaling your business are all connected. It's essentially creating a marketing machine. So the main sort of points to a marketing machine or a content, we say content engine or marketing engine for each brand. So the create marketing engine, etc. But essentially you want to attract, that's number one. Nurture that lead is number two, and then convert them is number three. But you can't convert someone that doesn't land on your website and inquire, right? So I'm not going to teach you scaling and pricing until we've gone through the bones of building your business. And so that is so important. Just if there's one takeaway, attract, nurture, convert. And this is around marketing, pricing, and scaling. So you want to create content that compounds over time. Instead of just randomly posting, yes, post your work, post your shoots, but you want to create assets, not just posts. And so we go deeply into having one monthly pillar, repurposing everywhere, and recycling your content so you're showing up online with SEO optimized keywords and all of the things you need, but you're only doing one piece of long form content. It's saving you thousands of hours, right? So you want that to go everywhere. But you're sitting down for an hour or two, and then boom, it becomes this content engine for you that's really supportive to potential clients instead of more like fluff on the internet. So I do go into building a strong pipeline, creating your first email list, lead capture, one strong freebie. And then I'm all about simplifying offers. You want to make buying easy. So if you do disclose your pricing on your website, we talk about defined outcomes, the obvious next step for people. It's always great to have an entry-level offer, even if you're a wedding photographer, brand photographer. But in general, I do talk about the architecture of pricing, money, investments, and then we do hit on scaling with the team. So again, systems first. You cannot build a team before you build the systems that I teach in my workshop. And the good news is that this workshop is 1 hour and 8 minutes long, and you could implement everything and be ready to have a team in a couple of months. But it will take dedication to get through all of it. Again, stepping into that leadership role is parts of this. And, my main intention with the Create Collective and with our programs and this podcast is that this is giving you a roadmap, from mindset to systems to marketing to scaling, and something to follow so that you are not constantly wondering what your next step is. So, anyways, this is all very exciting. Again, I said the workshop is 1 hour and 8 minutes, and the recession proof guide is very detailed. So all of this information can be found in the link in show notes. The Systems, Mindset, and Strategy bundle is only $7. I created this to be in a very easy yes for all of you. And once you're inside, we can book a free call. I am here for you. I would love to see you pop in my inbox soon. So thank you so much for joining us on this podcast episode. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for being here.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on your favorite social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your share can help someone improve their photography business and their life. Use the hashtag Focus and Flourish podcast so we can see your posts and connect with you there.